Uh, Madeline Brown, actor in Toronto. Amy Clarke, the Boston poet, is here. Somebody I've collaborated with in the past. So just I'm welcoming all of these people who are popping up from all over North America, China.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah. Okay, I will introduce Yang a little bit. So Yang is a wonderful person, and 3 years ago, I had a poetry workshop. She joined us, and then she also tried to contact her son's school to invite me for poetry workshop. And she's a wonderful person. She also hosted a lot of other events to help parents and students. So for this event, I thought it's wonderful to involve the parents and students. So I invited them to co-host. So that's she did a wonderful job to promote this event, and a lot of friends from the WeChat and from book club joined us, and it's also her friends. So welcome you all to join us, and also welcome Molly's friends and my friends, and from the League of Canadian Poets, right? Another member from League of Canadian Poets. And I also want to thank the League of Canadian Poets for funding this event, and thank Lakeside Academic of Canada, Corvus, WeChat, and book clubs, Facebook friends, so many friends, new and old friends. So thank you. Now it's my honor to introduce tonight's guest poet, Molly Peacock. First, I guess another people wonder, why Peacock? Anyway, we will let you later to say maybe that has a story behind. So I want to share my screen for so it's for Molly Peacock biography, right? So Molly Peacock is a well-known poet in Canada and the USA. She writes poetry, prose, essays, fiction, and biography. Here I showed several of her poetry collections and other books. She also founded the Best Canadian Poetry Series. I bought a lot. Okay, so I want to show you. Okay, I support, right? I really support it. Okay, and she also co-founded the Poetry in Motion on New York subways and buses. She wrote plays and performed one-woman show and hosts many workshops internationally. Molly has made a lot of achievements. You will find plenty online and on her website. So I encourage everyone to go to watch her poetry reading videos and interviews. They're amazing. They just encouraged me. And after I watched her interviews and the videos, I thought, oh, she's my role model. So I really, so tonight you will see why I say that. So, and before our discussion, I want to quickly introduce myself. Okay, quickly. I'm Anna Yin, so the inaugural poet laureate of Miss Saga. I have authored 5 collections of poetry, and my next book, Mirrors and Windows, a collection of translations, will be published in 2020 by Guernica Editions. And we will discuss 3 poems by Molly Peacock from that book. So now I will stop sharing, and I will invite and welcome Molly to speak.
Well, it's absolutely delighted to be here. And I just want to do a few shout outs for some other, the novelist and poet Dina Lynette is here from Florida. I'm just noticing these people as they come across on the list of participants. I have to go sort of fast here. And David Williams, a poet who's launched on a book project of his own coming in. I want to say that Anna and I met not too long ago, maybe within the last 10 years. And Anna has not always thought of herself as a poet. So when we met, she was just beginning to grapple with issues of form in her poetry and line in her poetry. And we had some wonderful discussions about that, and have had wonderful discussions about the whole enterprise of poetry and why you would write it, what's important about it, what it has to say, especially what it has to say now in a pandemic when people absolutely must speak from their hearts. If there's ever a time when we speak, how shall I say it, speak truth from our souls to other souls, it's now, and it's in poetry. So it's fabulous for me to be here with her. And I just want to describe a little bit about what it's like to be translated. There's I feel like a physical sensation if somebody is translating a poem of mine. When I translate, I'm talking about a kind of a physical sensation that I have when I translate. I don't do a lot of translations, but I have translated from the French and have translated from the Anglo-Saxon. And it's kind of a physical sensation. I feel my hands on that text almost like sculpturally, and almost as if I were like a certified poetry massage therapist. I like have my hands on the muscles of that poem. And when my own poetry is translated, I almost feel like, oh, it's getting like this long distance massage in a good way. Something is discovering all the bones and muscles of the poem. So that's my opening statement, and my thank you to you, Anna, for trying to translate my what I now realize are syntactically very difficult poems. So I'm very grateful to you.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I learned a lot through translation. So that's why I wanted to host this event to share my experience. So now let me share screen again. So I wanted to share with you because Mori said we have a wonderful event together, right? We did one event in 2015 for Chinese and Canadian poets reading event to celebrate the Chinese ancient poet Qu Yuan. So, and they had maybe 20 Chinese poets and 20 Canadian poets. So we had a wonderful time. So here you can see we have a lot of Canadian poets and Chinese poets. And also we have another event in 2017 in USA, Westchester University Poetry Conference, right? So that's my second year be there. I got the scholarship to be there, so thank them. And Moritz Peacock is the poetry poet laureate for the conference, for the poetry conference. So, and she has a workshop there. So I enrolled myself in for the workshop, and she gave us the assignment. She brought us to the museum, and she asked us to write about art object. And so I wrote one. So quickly to my artist self, I wouldn't read it, but the idea, because the poem is also related to today's poem. So later on you will find out. So this is it's a painting with a bucket of monies. So monies. So here I also, and I wrote this poem because I feel it's so easy. It's so easy to paint monies. It's so difficult to make a living as an artist. So it's so easy. So I wrote this poem. I thought, okay, be a poet as a poet as the same, right? So I sent it for the assignment. I sent to Molly, and she encouraged me to continue writing, but also keep my IT job. So today I still work in IT. Today I still work in IT field because I love money as well, right? So later we will discuss that. Okay. Okay. So and after the poetry conference, and late I translate the poems for these poets, and I met many wonderful poets there. So I did a translation, and that the two the poems here is my in 2015 I translated, and the version is this version translated. So I now we will discuss the translation and the poems. So now I want I hope I will invite Molly to read the poem for us. Then we will discuss it. So I will stop share. And wait a moment, let me post the poem on the, we will read it and I will post the poem in the chat room, okay? So let me find the poem now.
So for those of you who are expert on Zoom, you know where to find the chat room, but for those of you who are not, if you go to the bottom of your screen, you'll see little signals like mute and stop video and participants and chat. And if you click on chat, the poem should come up.
Yeah, I will share the poem later when discussed. So don't worry. If you miss that, don't worry. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I thought this was going to be this incredibly simple poem to translate. Let me read it to you, and then let me say a little bit about the problems. Couple sharing a peach. It's not the first time we've bitten into a peach, but now at the same time, it splits, half for each. Our then is inside its now. Its halved pit unfleshed. What was refreshed? Two happinesses unfold from one joy, folioed. In a hotel room, our moment lies with its ode inside, a red tinge with a hinge.
So
I had given Anna the poem translate, and she's going to comment on it and maybe comment on that idea of the post-coital cigarette that's lingering around in here too. Okay.
Yeah, so you can discuss. Yeah, we can continue discussion. Our discussion. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Anna has done two translations of this poem. The first translation, she had to try to get at this idea of a red tinge with a hinge, which of course in English suggests a peach, and suggests, I was actually thinking of a freestone that has that lovely red ridge inside around the pit. And I'm playing with language in English, but she is facing the terrifying task of having to get something of the rhymes and something of the visual ideas into Chinese. So tell us how you handled this.
Okay, good. Yeah, so you know the difficulty challenge, right? So yeah, this is 2015. I did a translation like that. So I did so I found very difficulty. It's the ending, how to translate that. So I didn't do too much. I just used like a word, like kind of literary word by word translation, right? But then I'm not satisfied. So because the book will publish next year, so last year I redid that. And so now I found another kind of solution. But before I show my my second version, I I also invited a lot of Chinese people, like Chinese friends, poets, to try translate that. So I wanted to show you here. So some friends, so several people did the translation. So I only took part of like, I think very, a little bit different from mine, or beautiful, or like I just copied a few, like to show here. So for example, one person did like that. So one person, I know some people don't read Chinese, so I just quickly. So it's like, I found our challenge, our common challenge is this part here, this part of then in, so in this part, and this part, so like what was refreshed. And so, and the ending part, how to translate it more poetic way, right? And also rhyme as well. So here, from other people's translation here, it's they didn't do rhyme first, right? They didn't follow the rhyme. And your poem is like, okay, your poem is flow very well, naturally rhyme. Rhyme is so like beautifully, right? Naturally, right? It's not forced, right? So it's very difficult to translate as well. So, and also for the ending, most people also use kind of way, like just like how to say, kind of how to say, kind of united with a point, right? To connect it, united. So use this kind of image to translate it. So yeah, I don't think we all feel it's difficult for this part. So what I did for my second version, I did more like so, like how to say, bold, and also in Chinese way to translate, in Chinese way to kind of rewrite it. So why I did that? Because for me, I think the first version, it stopped this, like the couple make love. It stopped there. It's not a soul, or like a soul reunited, lift up. So in my new version, I want it to be more deep connection, be more like be more in enlightenment, more like that. So more romantic. So I want a more romantic. It's like also it's subtle as well. I know your poem, right, Molly? Your poem, you very subtle, but although very subtle, everyone get it, right? after reading it, everyone know what that did. And you use the form as well. You split as a two part, right? So kind of two bodies, right? And although you use pitch to split, actually it's two bodies, right?
Yes.
So couples, yeah, couple. And also it's like a foiled. So they are like close as well. So also split and close, right? So in this way. And so the red thing at the end, you can, for us, we can imagine as like the peach, the red peach. Also can another way, you know, I, okay, sexy, or another way. Okay.
Yes, subtle and sexual. I mean, both of those things.
Yes, implying, right, with a hint, right? Yeah. So that's why when I do the translation, I also rhyme as well. So at the end, I did the like a couple.
Yes.
And as a couple.
We need to hear this poem, so I hope that you're going to read it. We want to hear those rhymes in Chinese, and we want to hear what you've done with it.
Yes. Okay. Before I read it, I also want to thank all the participants. So I listed here a lot of participants to try to translate it in different way. And also, it's beautiful. It's also have different versions and beautifully. And but I feel we all have the difficulty for the ending, how to ending it and how to lift up. how to surmount it, right? Okay, so I will read my one, right? 情侣共享一颗桃，这不是第一次了，我俩共咬一颗桃，但如今同一时刻，它裂开，均分正好，果核半开着裸露，今朝写往事缠绵，旧情刷新再复燃，两份幸福自一份喜乐，扩展再对折，课间瑞，良宵时分续情缘，也如蜜桃果核，也如并蒂情歌。So I hope you hear this rhyme. I hope, I don't know. Okay. Yeah.
Them, especially in the beginning, all of those ow, ow, ow sounds. I mean, I definitely heard them.
Okay.
And I mean, other people later on when there's a Q&A might have other things to say, but I feel all of that effort, but I heard some ease. There was ease in those sounds, and I heard the sounds corresponding to each other. So
yeah.
And we should, of course, know that I don't read or speak Chinese in any of its manifestations. So I'm responding to this just sensuously, just with a sensuous apprehension of it.
Yes, for the ending, I use the image of the core of the peach. I also use the image of a Chinese traditional, like 2 lotus flower close together to open. Oh. So that means like a couple, like unite. So I also use this image. So I add a little bit there, right? So anyway, we can open up later for people to comments, right? So here also this some other people made some translation. I didn't list all. I just put the parts of it because it's too much, right? So anyway, so now we will. I wanted to invite you to read another poem because you have 3 poems. So this poem also is very interesting. So I will stop. Okay, wait a moment. Let me post the poem in the chat room first because we will discuss. We wanted to see you, right? To perform it. You can perform, right?
Yes. I can actually. There's an actor here who performs this poem better than I do, but I'm going to give it a shot.
Okay.
Noticing some people I've had email correspondence with for decades, but haven't seen them in decades. And I just wanted to give a shout out. There's Bronwyn Mills is in this audience, whom I haven't seen in many, many years, and appreciate so much her coming and attending here, and other people who are translators who are here. Terrell Sewells, a Dante's translator, is here, and other American poets I'm seeing. Norman Stock, a very fine American poet, is here. Just kind of going through here, taking a look at some of the intimidatingly talented attendees this evening. So let me read you why I am not a Buddhist. With all of the cultural caveats of a Westerner saying why she's not a Buddhist, with responding to the grossest sort of interpretation of what it meant to me at that time. The whole idea of forsaking desire, forsaking craving, was just not anything that I wanted to do. I felt the desire and craving were the engine of my life when I wrote this poem, Why I Am Not a Buddhist. I love desire, the state of want and thought of how to get. Building a kingdom in a soul requires desire. I love the things I've sought, You in your beltless bathrobe, tongues of cash that loll from my billfold and love what I want. Clothes, houses, redemption. Can a new mauve suit equal God? Oh no. Desire is ranked. To lose a loved pen is not like losing faith. Acute desire for not gâteau is driven out by death. But the cake on its plate has meaning, even when love is endangered and nothing matters. For my mother, health. For my sister, bereft, wholeness. Well, why is desire suffering? Because want leaves a world in tatters? How else but in tatters should a world be? A columned porch set high above a lake. Here, take my money. A loved face in agony. The spirit gone. Here, use my rags of love.
Thank you, thank you. So I want to share the poem now, so we can discuss more detail. Okay, so everyone see the poem now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, good. So I think for a lot of people, I also invite the Chinese friends and poets to translate this poem. And also I did the translation as well. So I found we have some difference for here. For my mother, health. For my sister, wholeness. So for some people will translate it means for my mother wanted health. For my sister want wholeness. But some people translate it for my mother, I want her be.
Yeah.
So yeah, could you, how do we understand, or which way is, yeah.
So part of what's happening here is that this is a kind of an overgrown sonnet. Yeah. I often I've written many sonnets throughout my life, and it's a form that is very helpful to me to process a lot of thoughts and emotions. But I don't hold myself to 14 lines if I can't stay there. So this sort of grew beyond it. But I was holding myself to a degree to that and to the line. And so when I said for my mother, health, if I made a prose translation of it, it would be for my mother, I would wish for health. Okay. And often, I have to say, when I've read this poem just to an audience, I actually insert those words because I want people to understand what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And for my sister, bereft, it's I want wholeness. I think she also wanted wholeness, and I think my mother also wanted health.
Yeah,
so
that's.
It's not so far off to go in one direction or another. I don't think. But I see the problems that it poses. Mm-hmm. And also, you know, there are some touchstone words here, and one of them is rags. Mm-hmm. I mean, people who are sort of schooled in Western poetry and English, that word rags touches off a line from Yeats, the foul rag and bone shop of the heart. And, you know, I was aware of that. I mean, I'm aware of many classical poems in English, and they creep into my work. And I look at this and I'm thinking, wow, this too is a challenge to translate all of these things: cakes, clothes, God, pens, tatters, all these images. To me, it just seems it seems like an overwhelming challenge. If I were to take such a poem to even to translate into French, I would be going, whoa, it would take me quite some time. That looks like a month's enterprise to me.
Yeah, I agree with you, because for me, I think for my mother's health can translate in both way, also all reasonable, right? Oh, yeah. Okay. And also another people like this poem very much, and we have some debate at this line. The line, a column, the porch set high. So for different people, they think it's like this is illusion. It's like okay, idyllical illusion. It's because the illusion you couldn't have no foundation, so it is above a lake. So it means. So it's more like some people think like that. That's why you kind of think the material or the religion both doesn't work. So some people think maybe it's money, because on the US dollar, 10 the dollar have this this picture there. So could you give us a little bit?
And that too is because I'm aware that the poem is ending. I want to end the poem in some way like a sonnet, and I gave this image of something that I would like to buy with my money, a house with a porch that has an exterior, like a veranda that has columns on it, and it's set above a lake. And I come from I'm dual citizen, and I have family roots both in Canada and in the United States, but the roots in the States are near the Finger Lakes. And I had a vision of a house in the Finger Lakes, up, high above a lake. So in some respects, that's correct. It is a vision. I don't own this house, but I'm thinking of, well, I see it, and I say, here, take my money. I'm going to buy this house. And that, so people's instincts about what this is are true. It's both a vision and it's real. I mean, there are such things. And they are to be had. And I even went through a period of thinking that I should buy such a house, which my husband is in the audience, and he's breathing a sigh of relief because he certainly never wanted to do that. I hope that's an answer.
Yeah, and I know people like the poem because it's like you're debating, right? You're kind of argument. Why? And for me, after I reading, I'm thinking you actually become more like a Buddhist, because you have compassion, right? You share your compassion, you share the love to help others. So you are let go your money, material things. So actually, it's kind of, I like this poem. And also when I translate, I found it, it's a sonnet also. It's at the beginning, right? It's a rhyme also. And it's the same, same numbers of syllables for each line. So very beginning, I follow the pattern to translate like that, right?
I'm in awe.
So so that's why when I do translate, I try to change some words, just the fit in, right? Okay, I will read and also we have a lot of other friends tried the translation as well. So I posted it on our CoreView website for other people to debate or discussion, to share comments. So, but we don't have enough time to go through each version. So I will just read mine. Then we will open to another kind of a poem to discuss a little bit. Then we will, So, 为什么我不是佛教徒？我爱欲望，那种想要的感觉，以及痴迷如何去获取，在灵魂里建立王国之境，需要欲望。我爱孜孜以求的所得所觅。你 裹在无数腰浴袍里，卷舌的现金闲置我皮夹里。我也爱想要的锦衣、房子、赎买。一套新潮的钱纸套装，能等同上帝吗？哦不，欲望排着名次。失去心爱的笔，不等于失去信仰。对奶油果仁蛋糕的迫切渴望，被此神驱走。但盘子上的蛋糕有着它的意义。即使爱情危在旦夕，一切已不紧要。我为母亲要健康，我为妹妹曾经创伤要完好。只是为什么欲望会煎熬？因为欲望使得世界支离破碎吗？世界还要怎样？应该怎样？除了支离破碎，一座圆柱门廊高高竖立在湖泊之上。来，拿去我的钞票。心爱的脸在痛苦中精神殆尽。来，用上我男女破旧的爱。Yeah, this is the translation. So, not sure. Yeah, we will open for debate or for comments for other people as well. But I feel like you said you let go, you cannot let go, right? So you have an attachment for the body, for the material. Also, I like here you use the health and the wholeness. Also, it's the original story, right? For the Buddhist, how he became Buddhist, right? It's also see the health, see the sickness people, right? See, yeah.
Oh.
So it's also match. Like for me, it's like have the like allusion to the original story there. So that's what I read. So anyway, so let's see. We will have another poem, but this poem. So could you read? So I just show you here. No need to stop sharing, right? You can just
yes,
read.
that's fine. That's fine, and we'll treat this one very quickly because I know that there are people who have questions, and I'm interested to have them asked. So this, I think, in some ways, is the simplest poem. It's a little bit longer than Couple Sharing a Peach, but it's the simplest poem to translate, or at least I would find it. If I were translating it, say, into French, I would think, oh, this is an easier poem to tackle. For one thing, it doesn't have a rhyme scheme. The flaw. The best thing about a handmade pattern is the flaw. Sooner or later, in a hand-loomed rug, among the squares and flattened triangles, a little red nub might soar above a blue field, or a purple cross might sneak in between the neat ochre teeth of the border. The flaw we live by. The wrong color floss. Now wreathes among the uniform strands, and because it does not match, makes a red bird fly, turning blue field into sky. It is almost, after long silence, a word spoken aloud, a hand saying through the flaw, I'm alive, discovered by your eye.
Thank you, Molly. Yeah. So I found that this poem is 15 lines. Do you intentionally to break the first line to 2 lines, first sentence to 2 lines?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that is, I did that intentionally. I'm not as good a free verse writer as I am a formal poet, but yes, I did do that intentionally.
Yeah, and for me, because a lot of people think, okay, you are talking about the handmade like pattern or like clothes or something, right? But I also think about maybe you refer to the the form as well. For example, I'm working as IT, right? So I'm thinking of like poet write poems sonnets, but also they had machine AI, right? Machine write sonnets. So I'm thinking even as a man, as a poet writes the sonnet has some flaw, it's still beautiful. It's still perfect. It's better than the machine write because we have our own emotion there, or we are life true there, right? So for me, I also think about that. Also think about, okay, you maybe talk about like people learn the learn the formal poetry. They just follow the rules. They just follow the rules like a machine. So they don't have the kind of dynamic or like how to say the personality there. So I also think maybe that has implying other meaning as well. So is that true?
Well, I mean, you know, I have to say, this sounds a little grandiose, but writing sonnets in a way taught me how to live, because you can't write a perfect sonnet. And if you look at the great classic sonnets in English at any rate, you will discover all kinds of little flaws in them. They are, as a poem is a handmade object, and handmade objects have flaws. That's what makes them valuable. That's what makes them exciting. That's what we know, they're made by human hands because they have flaws. And the perfectionist in me, and I have a feeling, Anna, there's a little bit of a perfectionist in you too, that the perfectionist in me took comfort in the fact that I couldn't make a perfect sonnet. And as a matter of fact, I wasn't going to make a perfect life either, but I was going to be able to make a life that has a shape, a distinctive and a patterned, and I hope a beautiful shape. And in that way, the flawed poem inspires me, and that's part of what I'm sharing in the poem.
You know, yeah, that's good. That's another people, like Chinese people, read it they like it or not. And one lady from Vancouver read it, then she immediately translated it, and it's because she said she made that poem made her comfort, because this poem led her to remind her of her friend. Her friend is very outer, how to say, it's a very unique, different people. So it's not that another people maybe criticize her, and but she think she's very brave, and she has her own passion to pursue her life. So yeah, maybe later she will talk a little bit. I think she already joined the meeting. So yeah, her name is Liu Tong. So if later you want to share, you can share a little bit. Anyway, so I think because I wouldn't read my translation for that poem, because I found that not for us translate almost similar. So no need to discuss too much. I only mention it because this poem, actually a lot of people like it because it's our life, right? It's kind of and everyone accept our like flaws, or like, you know, I know my accent has a big problem. So and I wrote a poem for that, right? My accent, right? So and it got published in ARC, and also for the 2017, like for the National Poetry Month, like a project there. So anyway, so sometimes the frog maybe is perfect for for you to express, right? And your own like the true of yourself. Okay, so because for your poem there, so I maybe quickly share this because I think it's very, very related to your
yes, because there's money in it. So, no, I have to tell you that money is not necessarily a big image in North American poetry. So I'm glad to see it there. Of course, it's a big image in novels, but So we're happy to have this gold and this poem. So please read it.
Okay, Dan Joel have a famous poem called "Money." Yeah, Dan Joel, very short poem, famous. Yeah. Okay, so this is to my artistic self. Forget it. Too difficult to make this living. No matter how easy it seems to paint buckets of money, and how smoothly verses flow through this pen. No use. Even with tickets half price, the gallery remains empty. Never a moment drawing currency from casinos or so-called economy. Mind you, this pen will jam. More bills to pay, fewer cantos to sing. Versions from the museum where passionate Molly took you prove to be material showers. Soon you'll face the dark by the sea. Perhaps you too love gold, longing for wealth and freedom. On the dark circle the eyes, you take poetic badges off your empty pockets and dig into job questing, filling in keywords Java, Python, and Ruby, pitching automation, transaction, and income expectation. Is it possible to answer, where do you see yourself in 5 years? To craft this, you must lie or partly die. Yet still you hang on to the golden pen. so, so I just because of, like after the workshop, after the trip to university of the university, the poetry conference, I got a job interview, and they asked me question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Yeah. Anyway, I always keep my job, like IT job. I know it's
Well, I'm glad. I do feel all poets should have a day job. But when you say, in the poem, when you say to craft this, you must lie or partly die. That is a true response to that terrible question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? That is a standard question in job interviews.
Yeah.
There is a way in which the poem's talking about that suppression of the self in order to fit into the world of money, for instance. And so in some ways, it gets at the personal candor and integrity that is required really to make art and to write a poem. So thank you for that poem.
Okay.
For those of you who are looking at me with that laurel on my head, they forced me to wear that. So there we are. I know that there are all kinds of there are even more poets who joined here. There's Cindy Frankel, a poet from Detroit. There is Lindsay Royce, a poet from Colorado. Lara Bozabalian, many of the Canadian poets would know. And the I'm just trying. Oh, Anita Leahy is here, the series editor of Best Canadian Poetry and the author of The Last Goldfish, a new memoir just out. I'm trying to give as many plugs to as many people as I possibly can here. I'm also looking at I'm scrolling down the chat room, and Wendy Mark is asking, after long silence, was there a poem by Yeats with this line? I'm not referring to that poem. I'm just referring to that famous poem that Mike will remind me the title of, that ends in the foul rag and bone shop of the heart. So I'm not sure. There might, now I'm thinking about it, Wendy, maybe there is a line like that somewhere in Yeats, but I can't recall it. Oh, what? After Long Silence is the actual name of a poem. Oh yeah, and the other one, Mike is prompting me, is the circus animals desertion. So I'm and Bronwyn Mills has a really interesting question here. It's the last question in the chat room. She says, I caught a conversational tone in the Chinese translation of the Why I Am Not a Buddhist poem, sonically familiarizing it, like Molly.
Oh, thank you.
I know no Chinese, but I'm curious how the two traditions are different. And there's that, did you get more conversational in your translation?
Ask me or?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
Okay. Yeah, yes, because I'm also, I follow your like debating, like also argument, right? And yeah, I'm doing that. So and also for me the poem also at the ending I feel sad because I feel happiness, right? Although I gave out the money or my love, but I don't know if I can help. So this is my feeling for the poem, and I think my translation also have this feeling. But do you have this feeling when you are in your poem or?
Oh, I mean, the reason I write poetry, one of the main reasons I write poetry is because I often have several feelings at one time. And poetry is a way to be able to express situations and ideas where there are concurrent, overlapping, sometimes contradictory feelings. So yes, to everything that you're saying, that's all true. It all suits me, absolutely. And I'm seeing lots of marvelous questions here in the chat room. Here's one. There is, there's Ellen Racklin, on a New York poem, who is, I think, hiding out for the pandemic in Buffalo, along with, and I just want to say again to everyone that my 7th grade teacher and great inspiration to me, Bernice Baumler, is in this audience, and I feel very honored that she's here. So, do you remember, Anna, how we chose these 3 poems for you to translate?
Okay, so yeah, the thing is, in 2015, I guess 14, like Poetry Sky, the editor in USA, asked me to if I have some translation works for her magazine. So then because I met you several times at the League of Canadian Poets annual meeting, right? You are always so shining. Everyone approach you, right? Welcome you, and you are so friendly. You are so friendly to everyone. So I think I don't know who suggested me as well. So I googled online to find the poem, what kind of poem I can translate. So I found these 3 poems because they're all different style. For me, I like to try different things, right? And also, it's also the culture as well, like the why I'm not a Buddhist, right? The culture is there, and so yeah. So and the flow, I like it because I like its simplicity as well. But it's speak to everyone. It's like it's the truth there, right? It's the daily life truth, right? So that's why I pick this kind of poem. Yeah. Then I ask your permission you gave me. Then yeah.
Gosh, this is extremely interesting. So many marvelous questions here. Irina Nikolova from Toronto is saying, some translators undertake to recreate the original poem. Do you do that with Molly's poems, or do you try, I mean, when do you try to stick to the original and when do you depart?
Okay. As I explained before, for the couple sharing a pitch, right? That point, the
Yes.
first version, I'm more close to Moritz, like original, like more like translation. Then, but I'm not satisfied. I feel it's just stopped there. It doesn't lift up. So then my latest translation, I made it more like a remake it. But the meaning and the image, the meaning is from hers. But kind of I'm added a little bit more like Chinese culture there and a Chinese kind of way to speak up love. So yeah.
So that's how Lotus Blossoms gets into the Peach poem, and that's how I should say I made a subject line to my email invitation to this evening, and I said post-coital cigarette or peach, because in the earlier version, when you were just trying out a translation to a couple sharing a peach, you had that image of two people smoking a cigarette in bed, and which is of course not in the poem, but it gives the atmosphere of the poem. And I think that in translation you do want to evoke an atmosphere that you feel in the original poem. Just
Yes, yes, because I'm not satisfied for my first version. I just feel not the beauty there, so lack the beauty and lack the deep connection there. Because your points are talking about reunite, right? It's also talking about not just the just physical, sexy or something, right?
Yeah.
So that's why
Oh.
So any Chinese friends want to raise questions? Can tell us in your channel. Okay, Peach, how the difference? Anna, can you tell us the image?
Oh, Yang, you're back.
Yeah,
Hi,
Yang.
I'm so sorry.
How we lost you? How did we lose you?
Maybe either my internet connection or my cell phone got so immersed into the desire to meet all the awesome poets tonight. It lost itself, so I suffered.
we didn't expect so many people, so I guess.
Like a belated welcome to everybody here. That's so wonderful. For those of you who do not know the East and West Learning Club, we are like a grassroots culture group. We bring learning opportunities like tonight to immigrants to learn both Eastern and Western cultures and to communicate with people from other cultural backgrounds. So I truly enjoyed your poems, Molly, and I love Anna's in translation. To be honest, I felt like I could grasp more from Anna's translation because of that vocabulary.
Yeah.
And I found out Anna's translation is very poetic. I really love that. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I'm in her debt for these translations. Now, Lele Chen saying hello from Edmonton, and she's got a question that I think might interest you, Anna, and might interest you, Yang, for as we continue this. And she says, Molly, as a poet, what do you feel when your poem is artistically, quote unquote, distorted to speak to a different language? I'll tell you, I feel interested. I feel that my poems, if they were made out of a material, this material has an elasticity to it. It's natural and it's elastic, and I feel that it can be stretched and moved into another language with other ideas. So yes, I see that there's distortion, but I don't mind it. I don't mind it. It seems, it interests me. It interests me that someone would take some language or an idea that I had and move it into the sensibility of another language, because each language has its own sensibility. So that's my so I don't mind. I don't feel as though that it's destructive to what I've done at all. Poetry has been called the most provincial art because it speaks subtleties of language within a culture, and it's tough to translate it, difficult to translate it, but I like thinking of my poems as more global, that they could travel to another culture with the help of a good translator.
I want to add a few words because I saw a note for translation, right? It's not like a poem. So that's what worried me. It's like now people can use Google or tools, translation tools, to do kind of translation, right? But it's not a poem. It's not poetic, right? So that's why I really feel like, how to say, also like words, the choice of words, right? Sometimes in different culture, you for sure you need to find the different tone or words to express that. So the dictionary or the tools, translation tools, doesn't do that. So yeah, so I feel, yeah, sometimes I did bold translation, sometimes I do, but most time I'm more close to the, because yeah, it really depends. If I feel comfortable, if I feel I understand the poems like deeply, clearly, I might can remake the poems. So I will do the translation like that. So, but if I still worry a little bit, then I just don't take the risk. Yeah.
I mean, so it's intuitive. I mean, you feel a boundary and think, ooh, maybe that's too much. You have an intuitive field about it. Oh, that makes sense to me. And I'm just scrolling through these questions to make sure that we've gotten everything. And I'm also trying to write down people's names frantically so I can thank them later for coming.
Okay, so there has a question for me, said Anna. When there are interior rhymes, do you try to replicate them? And so that's mostly I guess I have a limitation. I mostly rhyme is for the ending rhyme, but in the rhyme I will do a little bit, but I usually I'm more if the poems, if my translation flow, it's okay. If flow, I'm not doing like I'm more like a rhyme and flow, and also the image and also the meaning. I want to keep like that.
And let's see, is there another new one down there? Gosh, well, there's a message from Alice Major, who is going to be participating in the next program. So maybe we should address that.
Okay, so many. Okay, how did I get? Okay. So one question is, how did I get to know Molly and became her translator? You know, my next book, My next book is Mirrors and Windows. Inside, it has 40 poems. 40 poems work. So Molly Peacock, Alice Major, and George Elliott Clarke, and also Al Morris, and Angel Motion, Diana Joa. So 40 poems. So actually, I'm pick up some poems. So if we, so I mean, I don't know how to say. I know it's like when I go to some event or I bought some book, right? Or I Google the internet, I found some poems I like. Then if I wanted to translate, I do the I will send the email to them to ask first permission, then I translate. So it's how we know, I know Molly is through the League of Canadian Poets. We met the annual meeting, right? Annual meeting. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I do find translating other people's works. It's more difficult than than to write my own. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's time consuming. You have to enter into another person's head, another person's artistic space, and you find out pretty quickly if it's rich enough for you to be there. I mean, that's the thing. Sometimes you can get started at something and think, I don't really want to deal with this. This isn't giving back to me enough. Or you get into something and you think, whoa, I thought this was going to be simple, and now I see all of these layers here, and this is worth living with. This is enriching my life as I do it. But it's certainly not the same. It's not the same impulse as writing a poem. You don't go to quite the same imaginative place, or at least I don't. I see Anna's busy trying to.
Yeah, I just saw so many questions. I don't know who to answer now.
That's okay. I think that I'm just going to give a few more shout outs. Joyce Wilson has a whole sonnet scroll that she runs online. Bronwyn Mills, of course, has a marvelous online magazine. There are publishers here. There are marvelous visual artists here, poets here. This is a wonderful and distinguished audience, and we've got a lot of fabulous questions here. I think that at this point we probably should be wrapping this up. Do you think?
Oh, it's like 9:30 wrap up. Okay, I will quickly at least ask one question for the rhyme. How to find the rhyme in Chinese word, Chinese, right? So for me, it's like sometimes I first translated not rhyme. So then I will see, so the first line ending some words, then I will use the dictionary, the rhyme dictionary to see, to try to match. Then I try to change my line again, then to try several times to see which is working. So it's like this. So sometimes if I couldn't find, then I just gave up. So.
Okay.
Molly, can I squeeze in and ask you a question?
Yes, absolutely.
I watched your wonderful video talking about your book, The Paper Garden.
Yeah,
and
it's wonderful.
You said something about social norms. You said some social norms constrain you from being yourself or being creative. It is very interesting because one of our learning club's purposes is to help immigrants to learn about Western social norms. We want to grasp them, to behave by them, so we can be socially accepted and feel more at home here. You were born here, and you have that heritage from birth. What kind of social norms you do not really want to buy. And what are some social norms you value really, very much, and you wish every immigrant to conform to?
Okay, well, I've thought about this question, and in an indirect way, it does have to do with translation. It's about culturally translating your life, because that is the process of being an immigrant. You have to translate your life into the other culture, and I think about cultural norms, and I actually was thinking about the difference between, say, life in the United States and life in Canada. I think of life in the United States, and there's a sense that everyone is out for themselves, and that you have to pull yourself up all by yourself, and that everyone can do that. And I think that in Canada, it's quite different. There is a sense that people need help, and that you should extend yourself to other people who need help. It's a very, very different attitude, say, between those two cultures. What makes me chafe against some of the cultural ideas that I grew up with? Well, I have to say one of them is traditional motherhood. I decided that I wouldn't have children, and that was a decision that I made because very difficult and violent and alcoholic family. And I grew up as I probably spent my first 17 years in terror, and in fear of sometimes being killed. And in some ways, poetry, when I found poetry, it saved my life. I had a way to express all of those feelings. So that's how poetry, in a way, connects with some of the cultural institutions that I just decided, that is a role that's not for me. I am going to try to embrace independence, and instead of being a mother, maybe at first I was just a role model to myself, but now that I am an ancient person, I've turned out to be a role model to a lot of other people. So
to me.
that's a long answer to your question. And I want to sort of maybe round this out. Yang, you asked me if I had a one sentence piece of advice
to immigrants, right? To help them
I'm
grasp the spirit of Western culture.
I'm going to say that I have a little motto that I live by, and that I share with anyone who studies with me. And I say this all the time to my students. And when my husband and I were deciding what to have engraved on our gravestone, we're going to put this on our actual gravestone. And the phrase is, "Attempt is the success." I truly believe this. I truly believe that just trying something gives you a sense of succeeding at it. Even if it's not a very good attempt or blah, 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 you don't have to worry about that. It's that you made the attempt. And I think that in that the people that are in this community are all attempters. As a matter of fact, all of the people, the 78 participants who are in this Zoom room right now, everyone attempts. And there's even somebody here who's come here tonight who hasn't written a poem in decades, and he just recently started writing poems again. And there's just a sense that if you attempted, that the attempt is the success. And I think that to measure ourselves by how we try is just an extremely important aspect of continuing living.
Yeah,
that's great. Thank you, Molly.
I want to add some my own experience, because I have a heavy accent, right? So for me to do my poetry live workshop, I use my IT skills. So I make it very dynamic and very interesting. So schools always invite me back, but although I still have my accent. So sometimes, yes, I have the challenge, have the difficulty. So it forced me to create another way and to do that things. So sometimes you think you have the limitation, right? But then you force you to think about, to be more creative. Yeah.
So I know that we are supposed to go till 9:30, but I don't feel a need to absolutely do that.
Okay.
I feel a sense I feel a sense of as the Quakers would say, I feel a sense of the meeting, that we're kind of coming to an end. But here's Dana Delabovi from writing to us from Missouri, saying that she translates poetry and that this was very helpful to her. So thank you, Dana, for for saying that and for being here.
Yeah. Also, Lucy Liu also comment like Chinese go to temples, not because a lot of money, or like because okay. So it's the want to find the peace there, right? So yeah. So I mean, for Buddhists, everyone have their own choice, right? But for Moritz Peacock's poem, so she focused another way, right? She just focused angle, one point of view, right? Not sometimes we couldn't use like poems to think people's like a personality or idea, right? it's like so she maybe she maybe argue the like the this kind of view in our world, right? People love the money, love the material, so they don't want to be Buddhist, right? But yeah, but in the end, she still, right? She finds the compassion, finds the love, and this money couldn't help, right? So yeah.
So, and Yang, I have one other thought. I'm just channeling my grandmother now. My grandmother wrote about 3 sentences, that's all, about 3 sentences every day, saying something about that day. And she just kept this little log in calendars. I have them all. I have them from the 20s through the 1970s.
Wow.
That she kept. And she wasn't, my grandmother would never have thought of herself as a writer, but she was somebody who processed her day every day. And I think that's one of the things that poetry does for us, but it's also one of the things that we can do for ourselves if we don't think of ourselves as poets, is just to say to ourselves, what was the day? What was the difficulty? Or what was the happiness? Or what was something I saw? I saw a child reach into a paper bag and bring out a grape and eat it. That might be the day, just something that you saw or you felt, or some fragment of a dream, or what have you, just in those few little sentences to know who you are through what you've experienced. It allows you then to go through life consciously, because this is a culture, Canadian culture, American culture, North American culture is constantly pressing you to go on and go on and go on and go on, and don't think, just do. But I guess I would say it's really important to think and just to examine a little bit every day what your lived life is like.
Mm-hmm. And Molly, you talked about some of your poems are quite conversational.
Yes.
And it makes me think of, because some people, they write so-called poems. So it's like a short sentences, but in different lines. What do you think, what makes a poem like a good poem? What kind of poems
Yeah,
can really
I
touch
mean,
you?
I have an answer for that. It's just my personal answer. But I feel a poem has to have passion. And what I mean by passion is strong, just strong emotion. And it could be very quiet emotion, but I can feel that emotion there. And some kind of pattern inside the language. Something where it's just not just a sort of chopped up, a chopped up sentence, but something that has some concentration to it, that feels like it's made. That feeling of hand making something also for me is essential in a poem. It's not essential to everyone, but that's for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, for
And
me, okay.
There's
For me,
someone
okay.
wrote something wonderful here in the chat room.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The language that composes the poems is just something on the surface. The most part of things is under the water, and I do have a sense of a poem like a pond, that somehow you dive down deep into it, and there's this, I think there might be that sense in translation too, where the translator is sort of diving into the pool of the poem.
Yeah, for me, it's like if I don't translate your poems, I wouldn't know more, and it forced me to dive in to find the answer, find the the why you write this, and why it attracted me. So I sometimes find the answer, and later on, oh, why I choose the poem. It seems like a coincidence, but then I always find, oh, that there is some connection there, reason there,
Yeah, something drew you.
Yeah.
Yang and Anna, I just want to thank you so much for setting this up, for this idea, for this exchange. I feel so honored and fascinated, and I'm thrilled to see so many people in this audience and asking these fabulous questions. And I guess, I just want to express my gratitude to everyone who is here and who's, what can I say, in this Zoom room thinking about all of this. So thank you.
Okay. We're so happy to have you and Anna here.
Yeah. Thank you all. So I want to quickly remind everyone, so if you want to join our next session is for Moritz, our Toronto Poet Laureate. And that time, at that session, we will more discuss about how other poets influenced us. So how I learned from translate his poem. So because after translate his poem, I got influenced to write other poems. So, and his poem is also about other poets. So we will talk about that, how influence each other. So yeah, and so each session we will focus a different angle. So for Alice Major, we will talk about because she wrote another poem from the scientific point of view. So we will talk about how to use science object to write poems. So, and for George, we will talk about the political poems, and also his poems so difficult to translate. So I must admit, so many allusions, so many implying. So I really need other people's help. So if some people wanted to join me to do the translation, yeah, it's wonderful. So yeah.
The second session of this series, it's Anna with Moritz, right? It will be on August 28th.
Yeah, August
another
28th.
Friday evening. And before that, next week, Friday at the East and West Learning Club, there will be a talented poet, Gutu, coming over to give us a lecture on the appreciation of modern poems. He is a poet and a journalist and a researcher on religions. So he has this mixed culture from Tibetan culture and Han culture. Very interesting person. But it will be in Mandarin.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So and if so, I want to thank you all. So hope to see you next time. And if I will save the chat, I will save the chat files, and I will post some answers to the core views. So like the chat, I know some question I didn't go through, so I will try to see if I can answer. Okay, then post on core views. And also for our other sessions, the poems from our guest poets, the poems I will post there, so people can. I'll quickly share that, so people can go there to post the comments or post the. Let me quickly share it so you know, because I think this is way I can save like so it's more easy. Okay. Do you see this core views? Do you see? What do you see? So could you, Molly, what do you see now?
What do I see? I see a screen that says they are amazing and Google Translate.
Oh, no, it's not this. Okay, I will stop. I will stop now. I will share another one. Sharing.
So when Anna is playing with this screen sharing, I saw a question for Molly. Like you are example, role model for many people, but I heard Frank ask you, do you have the kind of like the burden of having to have some impact on other people? When you write poems or do things, what does that,
I really don't feel it as a burden. I have to say, because what I do is a joy to me. I love writing. I love writing poetry, and I also love writing biography. Thanks for asking the question about the paper garden. So I don't particularly feel it as a burden, although there are always situations in which you're carrying your own life around, and then you feel the demands of other people in a literary way. But one of the advantages of having lived as long as I have in the literary world is I know that even if I feel a little pressured at one point, that's kind of not forever. I mean, I just might feel that right at that moment, and that will loosen up. So I mostly am grateful to still be participating in the literary life in so many aspects, I guess I would say.
So you just do things you enjoy, and along the way you will naturally have an impact on people.
Well, yeah, that sounds a little bit too positive. I mean, there are also plenty of things I don't enjoy. I don't enjoy bushwhacking through hundreds of emails. I don't enjoy, you know, I mean, there's a lot of aspects to the literary life that can kind of drive me crazy, but I still, but basically, I took some chances when I was much younger, and I'm living the life that I always wanted to live. And I'm very, very grateful that I do. And so I feel like, come on, Molly, you can give back, because the universe has given you a rich existence, and you've been able to exercise your gifts. So of course, give back and shut up and stop complaining. That's how I feel.
So maybe you put that in your next book.
Yes,
I'm going to
I'm going to
publish
call
an
it
essay
"Shut Up
book.
and Stop Complaining." Okay.
So thank you all.
Just goodbye, everyone. It's lovely to see everyone here, and thank you again, Yang. Thank you again, Anna. Thank you, League of Canadian Poets, and I will look forward to hearing what you and Al Moritz and Alice Major have to say, and George Elliott Clarke. Bye. Time.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much to support us, and hope to see you again. And if you have questions, just email me, and I try to reply. Thank you.